Bible prophecy is active and unfolding daily. Zechariah 12, Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38. Here is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's newscast. Now, be sure to stay tuned because during the personal thoughts segment of today's newscast, I'm going to tell you, without setting any dates, exactly when the rapture is going to happen. But first, last week we saw that Russia and the United States are coming to extreme odds against each other. Russia is beefing up its air defense systems at its naval and air bases in Syria. The U.S. halted talks with Russia on trying to coordinate airstrikes against jihadists in Syria. A ceasefire brokered by Washington and Moscow collapsed. President Vladimir Putin has proposed a law suspending a Moscow-Washington agreement, saying that he's refusing to dispose of weapons-grade plutonium. Underground shelters have been built to house 12 million people, enough for the entire population of Moscow. And then, to top it all off, Russia's Ministry of Defense warned its citizens that America is about to begin a nuclear war. Talk about things ramping up. Now also, last week I said that I'm now looking at a 12-month countdown to Yom Teruah 2017, coinciding with the prophecy of Revelation 12, which I believe will bring a surprising escalation of events leading up to, notice I said events leading up to the birth pains that will introduce the start of the 7-year tribulation. I repeated that because people will go, oh, you said the tribulation's going to begin. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about events that lead up to it beginning. And that is to say that I believe that although we've been seeing world events escalating like never before, these next 12 months are going to be much more extreme than anything we've seen so far. And of course, many of us are expecting to see the rapture happen on Yom Teruah 2017, but I have a different view about that, my friends. And so, please note that what follows is strictly an expression of my own personal viewpoint. I do believe that what I'm about to share with you is a true revelation given to me from Elohim. However, since I can't back it up with Scripture, I'm not going to call it a prophecy, but rather just a personal conviction about this most exciting event that everyone likes to call the rapture. Please understand that I always refer to this event as the Net Chatef. I'll explain why a bit later. I said that I was going to tell you exactly when the Net Chatef is going to happen. So, are you ready? Because here it is. The Net Chatef is going to happen when it happens. Then is when, and when is then. Hang in there with me. I know some of you are thinking, what kind of double talk is that? And I also know that some of you are still scratching your heads, giving it some thought, while yet a few of you already understand what I'm getting at and are in total agreement with what I just said. And that is, once again, the Net Chatef is going to happen when it happens. Then is when, and when is then. That, my friends, is the only way anyone can ever prophesy its occurrence accurately and truthfully. Now let me explain with a bit more clarity. There's a reason, which no one has ever given before, why the Net Chatef is called the event in which no one knows the day or the hour. And that is because, and this is the revelation I was given, It's an event that happens outside of time. It is not going to happen on any day or hour in time, because it happens outside of time. Further, it's not going to happen on the earth, because it happens in the Shamayim, outside the time-space continuum. Some of you know what I'm getting at. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 and 17 tells us that the dead in Mashiach rise first, and then we who are alive and remain on the earth will simultaneously be netchatef, that is, kidnapped, snatched up, together with them, and them is referring to those who have already died in Mashiach, together with them in the clouds to meet Yeshua in the air. And so we always will be with him. So, you see, the netchatef is going to happen in the clouds and in the air. And that is to say, it all happens in the Shamayim, outside the time-space continuum. Now further, I believe that even after the netchatef happens, still no one's going to be able to say when it happened. Only that it did. But they won't know the day or the hour, because it will have happened outside of time. By the time anyone realizes that the netchatef occurred, the event will already be past tense, and they won't be able to say what day or hour it happened on. No one will ever be able to pin it down, not before and not after. Just like I always say, my friends, no one can own the things of Elohim. And if this message I've just shared with you irritates you, it can only be because you want to own the rapture. And to do that, I say, go ahead, try. Everyone always wants to own it. They're always, when's it going to happen? It's going to happen Thursday at 2 o'clock. Everybody gets all excited. Oh, Thursday, 2 o'clock. It's crazy. It's trying to own something of Elohim, and no one will ever declare the day or the hour and be accurate about it, because it doesn't happen in time. It happens outside of time, my friends. This is something very unique. Now, here is why I always refer to the so-called rapture as the netchatef. Netchatef is the Aramaic word we see in the original texts of the Bible, wherever this astounding event is referred to. People say there's no such thing as a rapture because that word doesn't appear anywhere in the Bible, and they're correct in that the word rapture doesn't appear anywhere in any English Bible. However, the event does. And the word rapture comes from the Latin word rapturo, or something like that, which we can see in the Latin Vulgate, a late 4th century Latin translation of the Bible that during the 16th century became the Catholic Church's official version of the Bible. But the Bible was not originally penned in Latin, nor in Greek, and certainly not in English. It was originally penned in the Father's language, and that is Aramaic Hebrew. In the Greek text, we also see the word harpazo, translated into English as caught up or snatched up. But Yahweh's word, the Aramaic Hebrew, seen in 1 Thessalonians 4:17 is caught up, and in Revelation 12:5 is snatched up, is netchatef, a word which basically means kidnapped. Now, everyone's constantly wanting to know when this most exciting event is going to happen. Most people spend much more time arguing about it than they do actually studying it and educating themselves about it, which is why I wound up creating a playlist of 35 videos which covers absolutely everything the Word has to say about this fascinating subject. And if you're not fully educated about the Net Chetef, just click the link for my playlist, seen in the Read More section beneath today's newscast, and prepare yourself for one very large, but one very worthwhile study. Now, the reason I'm even bringing this up, aside from the fact that Elohim wouldn't let me sleep the other night until he was sure I agreed to share this revelation with you, is because last week I told you that I'm now entertaining a 12-month countdown to Yom Teruah 2017, which of course is really an 11-month countdown now. And most Bible scholars agree that Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets, is Yahweh's Kodesh appointment for the Net Chetef to occur, for many valid reasons, and I agree. However, that is not to say that I believe it's going to happen on the very calendar day given for the Feast of Trumpets. Habakkuk, chapter 1, verse 5 reads, "Look at the nations and watch. Be utterly amazed and wonder, for I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told." In Matthew 24:36, Yeshua says, "Of that exact day and hour no one knows." And back in the day, whenever Yom Teruah was approaching and others would ask when it was, any Jew would always say, "Of that day and hour no one knows, but only the Father." But these days, everyone assumes that they can expect to be taken up on that very day. And next year, on September 23rd, the sign in the heavens, seen prophesied in Revelation 12, which is a depiction of the Net Chetef, will be happening. So now everyone is doing the dance again, thinking, "Oh boy, we're going home on September 23rd, 2017. But we cannot do that, my friends. Yeshua very clearly tells us in Matthew 24:44 that he will come at an hour when we do not expect him. So, anytime we are expecting him, we can rest assured he's not going to show up. Let me admonish you, my friends. No one is more eager than I to go home. But we do not want to be expecting Yeshua and ignoring his instruction to us that he is going to come at an hour when we do not expect him. Let it go. Focus instead on entering Elohim's rest. Revisit Hebrews chapter 4 with me. I'll have a link for you there too, beneath, in the Read More section. Now, personally, I look for the Net Chetef to happen every day without expecting it to. And I'm counting the months, weeks, and days to Yom Teruah 2017, expecting it to be just what it is, a sign, an announcement that says, get ready, big things are now being served up on the table of events. Now, the Net Chetef could happen on that day. No one knows. But all I'm saying is, don't get all bent out of shape about it and expecting it and all that stuff. The absolute best thing all of us can do between now and that glorious event of the Net Chetef is to keep ourselves focused on being washed by and growing in Yahweh's Word every day and nothing else. Turning to wars and rumors of wars, Iran is working against Israel in many ways, my friends. In Gaza, by supporting Hamas and other terrorist organizations, mainly the Islamic Jihad, through Hezbollah and building Hezbollah up. In Judea and Samaria, by attempts to operate terrorist cells. Through ongoing attempts to enlist Israeli Arabs who will take action against the nation, and through terrorist attacks abroad, which are carried out by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and Hezbollah against Israeli and Jewish targets. On Thursday, October 13th, from NBC News, the U.S. military launched Tomahawk cruise missiles against radar sites in Yemen following two incidents, October 9th and 12th, in which missiles were fired at U.S. Navy destroyer USS Mason in international waters near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait from rebel Houthi-controlled territory. Pentagon Press Secretary Peter Cook said, "These limited self-defense strikes were conducted to protect our personnel, our ships, and our freedom of navigation." Close quote. From the New York Times, Kurdish forces fighting ISIS in northern Iraq the week before last shot down a small drone the size of a model airplane. As they were taking it apart, it blew up, killing two Kurdish fighters. In the past month, ISIS has tried to use small drones to launch attacks at least two other times, prompting American commanders in Iraq to warn their forces to treat any type of small flying aircraft as a potential explosive device. American advisors say drones could be deployed against coalition forces in the battle in Mosul. Turning to our Intifada update, on Sunday, October 9th, from Ma'an News, Israeli forces escorted 1,200 Israelis to Joseph's tomb in the West Bank when violent riots erupted, with dozens of Palestinians throwing rocks and firebombs. Israeli forces responded with riot dispersal measures. Under the 1993 Oslo Accords, Joseph's tomb was to remain under Israeli control, but the Palestinian Authority took over the site during the Second Intifada. As part of security cooperation with the PA, the Israeli army allows Jewish worshippers to make monthly pilgrimages to this site. Then on Tuesday, October 11th, from the Jerusalem Post, rioting broke out in 3 Arab neighborhoods of Jerusalem less than an hour after Yom Kippur began on Tuesday evening. Arabs threw gas bombs and rocks at officers who responded to a dangerous and life-threatening situation. One resident who threw a gas bomb at officers at close range was injured critically and died. Despite the violence in East Jerusalem, thousands of Jews prayed at the Western Wall in the Old City without incident. And now, my friends, a report concerning the UN. From the Prime Minister's office, following UNESCO's adoption of a resolution which ignores the ties of the Jewish people to the Temple Mount and the Western Wall in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu said, quote, "To say that Israel has no connection to the Temple Mount is like saying that China has no connection to the Great Wall of China, or that Egypt has no connection to the pyramids. But I believe that historical truth is stronger, and that truth will prevail." This is yet another absurd UN decision, Netanyahu said last Saturday. UNESCO ignores the unique historic connection of Judaism to the Temple Mount, where the two temples stood for 1,000 years, and to which every Jew in the world has prayed for thousands of years. The UN is rewriting a basic part of human history and has again proven that there is no low to which it will not stoop. Close quote. The vote at UNESCO went against Israel 24-6. However, there were 26 nations that abstained, and that is more than those who supported this vicious assault on truth. It's also important to note that the 10 nations which had voted for a similar resolution in the past abstained this time, displaying a decline in support for the Palestinians' lies. And that reveals that the Palestinian campaign against the Jewish state is actually losing ground. Further, the manipulation of UNESCO by Israel haters should be a revelation to the world that the Palestinian goal is not based on a fair-minded two-state resolution, but rather a bold effort to deny Jewish rights and history, and ultimately to force all Jews out of Jerusalem, if not completely out of Israel entirely. From the times of Israel, all meetings by Israeli officials with UNESCO, including participation in international forums and professional cooperation, will be suspended until further notice. Now, looking at our review, the U.S. military launched Tomahawk cruise missiles against radar sites in Yemen. Kurdish forces fighting ISIS in northern Iraq shot down a small drone the size of a model airplane, and as they were taking it apart, it blew up, killing 2 Kurdish fighters. Israeli forces escorted 1,200 Israelis to Joseph's tomb in the West Bank when violent riots erupted, with dozens of Palestinians throwing rocks and firebombs. Rioting broke out in 3 Arab neighborhoods of Jerusalem less than an hour after Yom Kippur began. And the UN adopted a resolution which ignores the ties of the Jewish people to the Temple Mount and the Western Wall in Jerusalem. And that, my friends, is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. Until then, stay safe. Shalom.
Crowded rooms, I need more space than I consume. Enough is time alone with you, underneath a naked moon, sharing confidential moods and making chatter. Mockingbird nocturnal sings notations of eternal things, entering the quantum breeze, flying not for want of wings. He lights his gaze on you and me, simply because we matter.